Let's get the show going, guys. Alright, basically I'm going to give you some specifications on both of these models in front of you right now. Now, if you didn't know, the one on the left is the Orient, the one on the right is the Rolex Submariner. Now, the Rolex Submariner, this is the new ceramic version, which was released a couple of years ago. It has a black dial, a ceramic unidirectional rotating diving bezel. It has a self-winding automatic movement caliber 3132, made in-house at Rolex. It has 300 meters of water resistance, or 1,000 feet. It is in a 40 millimeter case, has a 7-inch adjustable oyster-style bracelet with a glide lock extension. Now, it does have lume on the hands and the markers, and the pip on the bezel. Now, getting to the watch on the left, the Orient Ray 2, released a little more than a year ago, I believe. This watch is a Japanese-made watch made by Orient, which is owned by Seiko. This is a diving watch also, and here are some specifications on this one. The Orient is using an F69 automatic movement with 22 jewels, made in-house by Orient. It's a self-winding, hand-winding, and hackable movement, just like the Rolex. The unidirectional bezel has a, I believe the insert is aluminum, and it has 120 clicks. And it rotates one way, unidirectional. The case is 41.5 millimeters in diameter and about 13 millimeters thick. Now this watch comes in at about $200. The bracelet pictured right here in this video is not the stock bracelet. The stock bracelet is much lesser quality than this bracelet. This is the strap code Super Oyster bracelet for the Orient. So we're not really going to get too much into the bracelets, even though, as most of you should know, the new Rolex bracelets are going to be much better than the Orient bracelets. It's just a price factor. Now, I'm going to start by comparing different parts of the watch, and let's go. As you can see here, I'm going to be doing a 1 through 10 scale on each of the watches based on movement, crown, finishing, materials, bezel, accuracy, lume, affordability, and resale. So each of these watches are going to get a rating on each topic, and then I'm going to add them up at the end, and let's see how they come out. Now, number 1, starting with the movement. The movement on the Rolex is a trusted movement. It's been around a very long time. It's made completely in-house by Rolex, and you know, it's a very standard movement. It's very well done. It keeps good time. The service intervals are once every 10 years on the new movements. It has a parachrome hairspring. It's a much higher level movement than the Orient, obviously. And this movement is great. It's been great to me, in my opinion. I have to give the Rolex movement a 10. Okay, so the Rolex movement's getting a 10. Now the movement on the Orient. We have to take price into consideration also. But let's say the movement on the Orient, it's pretty accurate, it's very reliable. Its power reserve definitely lives up to its name. For the price, you're getting an in-house movement that's very reliable and within 5 to 7 seconds plus a day, compared to the Rolex at being plus 2 seconds a day. I'm going to have to give the movement on the Orient a 7. Alright, so movement is done. Next up, we do have crown. Now, why I did this is because the crown is very essential to the function of the watch itself. So, now the crown on the Orient is kind of tucked in a little bit too much. It's a little hard to grasp. You really have to get in there. The crown guards kind of really block it too much, and it's a little too small in my opinion. And it does wobble a little once you get it out. Now, the crown on the Rolex is very easy to grasp. It's definitely a little bigger. It's not as sunken into these crown guards. And it definitely works wonders. So I'm going to have to give the crown on the Orient probably a 5. It is a downside of this watch. It still works. And the crown on the Rolex, it works great. There's not one problem with it. I'm going to have to give it a 10. So we have a 5 for the Orient. And we have a 10 for the Rolex. Alright, next topic up is the finishing. Now the finishing on the Orient is pretty good for its price point. As you can see, the high polishing on the sides is done very nicely. The brushing on the top part of the case is done pretty good on the lugs. The other side of the case is done pretty good. Definitely going to have to give this probably an 8. Now, the finishing on the Rolex is a little more luxurious in look and feel. The brushing is exquisite on this watch. It is perfect. Now I'm not saying all of this about Rolex to be biased, but I'm just telling you how it is, what's right in front of me. But the finishing on the Orient's definitely amazing for its price point, but not comparable to the Rolex. So I'm going to have to give an 8 to the Orient and a 10 to the Rolex on finishing. Now let me just write this down. Give me a second. Finishing 10 Rolex. Finishing 8 on the Orient. Okay. Now, getting to materials. Which is next? The Orient 316L stainless steel. The Rolex 904L stainless steel. Basically surgical grade stainless steel. More corrosive resistant, less scratch resistant. It's a harder metal. It's a little more expensive. In reality, it's really not that expensive, but it is harder to machine, and Rolex has to use higher quality machines to cut this metal, compared to Orient, which has to use lesser quality machines, or less expensive machinery to cut the 316L steel. 316L is still a great steel to make a watch out of. Many watches, if not most watches, are made out of 316. Rolex is the only one, really, that I know of that uses 904L stainless steel. But it definitely is nice to the touch, and when it's brushed very nicely, gives off this nice gleam when the sun hits it. Now I'm going to have to give Orient a 9, because pretty much it is the standard in watchmaking 316L. But Rolex just goes one little bump above that at 904L. So the Orient's going to get a 9. And the Rolex is going to get a 10. Let me just write that down. Okay, moving on to the next subject. The bezel. The bezel. The bezel. Okay. Now, if you own one of these watches, you might know the bezel is a little hard to turn on the Orient. You really got to dig your fingernail in there. I mean, the bezel definitely works great for function, other than the fact that it's hard to turn. It does not seem to be loosening up since I bought it either, which was about 8 months ago, I believe. I mean, it definitely stays in place. There's no play. And it definitely works, but it's a little hard to turn. Also, the insert on here is aluminum. All in all, this is one of the only 2 downsides of this watch, being the crown and the bezel rotation. I'm going to have to give this Orient bezel a 6. And if you own the Orient, you'll definitely know why I gave it a 6. So the Orient bezel is getting a 6. Now the Rolex bezel. The Rolex bezel. We have a ceramic Cerachrome bezel here, which is very nice, shines nice in the sun. Definitely nicer than the aluminum on the Orient. All of the numbers are engraved, and I believe it's platinum something. I forget how Rolex does it. If you I don't feel like researching it right now, but if you know, leave it in the comment section below, please. Thanks, guys. And the bezel is a triple spring underneath here, compared to one on just the Orient. And it rotates really easily. Not so easy where it's going to move, but it's very smooth. It just chops along. You can hear that. It's very precise. It lines up perfectly. And this does not seem to change over time. It's always how it was the day I bought it. This is definitely one of the best diving bezels in the whole diving watch sector, in my opinion. Many other people will agree with me also on that one. So the Orient bezel got a 6. The Rolex has to get a 10. It just has to. The bezel is just too good. Now moving on to accuracy, which is our next topic here. Now the accuracy of the Orient is extremely good for its price. And I really have to give props to the Orient for that. It's a very accurate watch. This watch right here has been only gaining about 5 to 7 seconds per day. When I bought it, it was only about 1 second a day it was gaining. Then over time, as the movement broke in, it started gaining about 5 to 7 seconds. And it's been pretty much like that ever since. Which is really amazing for this price point. So I'm definitely going to have to give that a 10. Now let's keep in mind that the Orient has a day and a date, so I'm going to try to leave that out. Just imagine if the Orient did not have that day and the date. So accuracy for the Orient is a 10. Okay. Now the accuracy for the Rolex, it's definitely an extremely accurate movement. You know, plus 2.5 seconds a day. It is extremely more expensive than the Orient, but it's a COSC certified movement. You know, it's gone through rigorous testing by Rolex numerous times. The quality control at Rolex is really good. A watch really does not make it out of Rolex that doesn't work correctly. You know, I'm going to have to give it a 10 also. Now, the Lume. I'm going to throw a picture up of the Lume on each of these watches right now. Okay, so as you see, you have seen the Lume on both of these watches. And I really do have to say, they're kind of equal. The Orient shines a different color, more of a greenish color, but the Orient Lume is extremely good. It's really good. And it definitely lasts. Now, the Lume on the Rolex is a bluish hint. And it looks a little more luxurious, the blue hint, if you should say. But honestly, I'm going to have to give both of those a 10. Because the Lume on both of them are really amazing. You know, you really can't complain about that. So both of those are getting a 10 on the Lume. Now our next topic, affordability. Well, as you know, the Orient is $200. The Rolex is $7,500. Can't even compare in affordability. But I would say, even though I own this watch, it is overpriced. Rolexes used to be cheaper back in the day. Now, every single Rolex is extremely expensive. If you want a Rolex, you just have to pay the money. There's really no way of getting around it. But, you know, I believe this watch should be priced at about $5,000 instead of $7,500. So for the affordability, I'm going to have to give Rolex a 6. Because it's really not accessible by the general population. Whereas I'm going to give this a 10, where it's more accessible for the general population to get a decent automatic watch for $200. So this is going to get a 10, that's going to get a 6. Let me write that down. Okay, now our last and final topic is resale. Now I've included this to mix things up a little bit. I haven't really seen anyone else doing that. But you can pretty much buy one of these watches at $200. If you want to sell it pre-owned with all the original bracelet, all the links, the original Orient box, you could probably fetch about $150. So you're recuperating about $150 out of $200, which is amazing. Now the Rolex, if you buy it retail at $7,500 or gray market at $7,000, this is brand new. You can resell it for about $6,000 to $6,500. So you're losing a little more money, but you're also spending more money. So the ratio obviously is going to be different. But the resale on the Rolex, it's definitely going to hold its value. The Orient on eBay, you can definitely resell it for about $150 out of $200. I think they're both pretty decent. Obviously, you're gonna lose less money on the Orient because you paid less money originally for the watch. So the Orient is definitely gonna get a 10, and the resale on the Rolex definitely a 10. And if you buy the Rolex pre-owned, you can sell it for the same price you bought it at, or maybe $100 to $200 less. So that's another factor to put in there. So I'm going to show you all my numbers now, and let's see what we have here. Okay. Well, if this thing would... There we go. Come on. And the final countdown is here. Alright, so out of all 9 aspects at 10 points each, the Rolex scored an 86 out of 90. Now the Orient, the Orient scored a 75 out of 90. Now that's pretty good, comparing a $200 watch to a $7,500 watch. So that's pretty much going to be it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed this new type of video. It's a little different, something out of the ordinary, and I thought it was quite fun. Leave a comment in the section below if you have any questions. If you liked the video, definitely give me a like and subscribe to the channel. Definitely helps me out. If you're interested in picking up one of these Orient watches, I'm going to leave an Amazon link in the description below. Also, I want to give a shout out to another fellow YouTuber who goes by the name EDC Gunner. And he makes some really cool watch videos and all types of knives and EDC gear. And he puts out videos pretty much daily. So I'm going to leave a link below in the description for his channel. Definitely check him out, subscribe to his channel. And yeah, guys, that's pretty much it for today. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Watch Addict, out.